The new Watchmen TV series is coming to HBO on October 20th. You know, it's that show following a film of the same name, but it's not based on the film, it's based on a comic, even though the events of the show never quite took place in said comic. You know, that one. Sound a little complex? Well, maybe we can help. We're gonna tell you everything we know so far about the upcoming series and provide a little insight into the story's origins. That way you can better understand how exactly this show will relate to the film and the source material.
Don't interrupt. We're getting to the good stuff.
They are keeping a ton of stuff under wraps, so we'll also break down some trailer clues and get into a little bit of speculation. First, do me a solid by hitting subscribe and turning on your notifications. That way when we produce dope new content, you can watch, man. Get it? Watchmen? Let's talk about the creators. Alan Moore wrote the graphic novel with Dave Gibbons in the 80s. Big deal, broke new ground. Moore has been very adamant about the fact that he does not want an adaptation of his work. Any of it, including Watchmen. But then comes HBO and Damon Lindelof. You know Lindelof as the co-creator of Lost and The Leftovers. Well, given that he's a huge fan of the original comic, he passed on the project twice before agreeing to run the show. In a roundabout way, he is constructing the show around Moore's wishes. In an open letter to fans, he said that, "We have no desire to adapt the 12 issues Mr. Moore and Mr. Gibbons created 30 years ago. Those issues are sacred ground and they will not be retread, nor recreated, nor reproduced, nor rebooted." Oh, so what the hell is that supposed to mean? If you're not adapting it, then what are you doing? What does it have to do with the comic? You probably assumed, as I did, that the show is basically Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, you know, but with men and watches. Well, no. According to Lindelof, he's, quote, remixing the graphic novel, which brings us to the plot. The comic mostly takes place in the late 80s. It's about a world where superheroes exist, which messes with American history in a pretty dramatic way. For example, Nixon is permapres. Anyway, eventually the heroes are treated as outlaws, so these guys become more of masked vigilantes. We do not have time to go over the whole plot of the Watchmen comic, but we will jump into how the show will relate. It will take place more than 30 years later. That's right, modern times. So instead of seeing how masked vigilantes and superheroes affect a world where Nixon is president through the 80s, we'll see how Lindelof and company imagine the way that modern America would respond to these heroes, or anti-heroes, or whatever you'd like to call them. The stories being told by HBO do not exist in Moore's graphic novel. They exist in the same universe, however. Lindelof said the show, quote, honors the graphic novel without making it necessary to have read it. It will stay true to the comic's lore, so everything that happened in the comics did in fact happen in the show's universe. So, if you're familiar with how Dr. Manhattan straight up exploded Rorschach then took off for Mars, yes, that is a thing in the show. In the trailer, we do see a gang wearing his mask, however. They are called the 7th Cavalry. Rorschach's journal is a thing in this universe, leading us to assume that they were empowered by it. It looks like the journal may be public information that only some choose to believe. In the trailer, we also see a sketch depicting what looks like the monster Ozymandias unleashes in the comics. Fans know that in Zack Snyder's 2009 film, said monster doesn't exist, so that's a clear indication that the show will not be an extension of the film, though this is information we were already aware of. In the Comic-Con trailer, we see a live feed of Dr. Manhattan currently on Mars. Then we see this figure pick up a Dr. Manhattan mask. Can I prove it's him? No, but the dude has a blue hand, so come on. We're throwing around a lot of names here, so it's time to talk about the cast and characters. As we mentioned earlier, Adrian Veidt, aka Ozymandias, will be back and will be played by Academy Award winner Jeremy Irons. We see a newspaper in one of the trailers that says he is dead, so maybe he faked his death and is in hiding. But we have no idea, none of that is confirmed. Silk Spectre will also be included. Technically Silk Spectre 2, daughter of the original Silk Spectre, but she is going by the name Laurie Blake. Is this Laurie Jupiter from the comics? Yeah, that's fair to assume. Her biological father's last name is Blake after all, but there's no real way we can confirm it. Just like we can't confirm this is Dr. Manhattan's blue hand. Do you see what I'm saying? Another character appearing from the comics is Hooded Justice, as he was featured at the beginning of the Comic-Con trailer. We don't know if he'll appear in any larger capacity than being the subject of this video, but there he is. As far as we know, that's all the characters that will be returning from the graphic novel, but there is a rumor that Don Johnson will be playing Dan Dryberg, aka Night Owl, given that he's clearly seen in the cockpit of Night Owl's ship here. His character is supposedly named Chief Judd Crawford, but that could be a cover. He and Silk Spectre no longer seem to be together, however. There will probably be some other Easter eggs sprinkled in there and old characters that make surprise appearances. Our guess is that it will directly relate to the novel more than most people assume. That way fans of the comic can get all excited and be like, oh, I know who that is. What a surprise! Other big names appearing are the likes of Regina King, who you know from Lindelof's The Leftovers and her Academy Award-winning role in If Beale Street Could Talk. She's playing a character named Detective Angela Abar, aka Sister Knight, and appears to be the main protagonist. We also have Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who you probably recognize from Aquaman. Then there's legendary actor Louis Gossett Jr., and Tim Blake Nelson, who you may recognize from playing foil characters in just about everything. Oh yeah, also, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of Nine Inch Nails are behind the music. The duo won an Oscar for scoring The Social Network. Look, there's not a whole lot we can tell you for sure because there's not a whole lot they've told us. In short, it looks to be a show about masks. That sounds like a joke, but it's kind of true, literally and metaphorically. The comic is about masked vigilantes, but 30 years later, the police are masked, detectives are masked, villains are masked, everyone is hiding their true self because everyone's identity needs to be protected. It's a corrupt world where no one can be trusted. The show looks like an intense, wild ride, and I cannot wait to see get up. Thank you for watching. Did we miss anything? What aspects from the comic are you hoping will appear? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to hit subscribe, that way you can stay up to date with all the dope content we're producing on the regular. We will see you next time.